You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, one thing is that from the front, the hips don't move as well. It just doesn't work as well. You can do a little bit of that, but it just doesn't work as well. However, the legs work beautifully. So just watch how much movement you get in the hip itself when you rotate on the leg itself, okay? And you may also have noticed that once you get below the knee, sometimes you lose it a little bit. So if you want to move the hip, then come onto the thigh. We were talking about the planes of movement. So one thing you can do, get in position, is the vertical movement. Look at her head. Watch her head. And with that, you can play around with that and look at the movement through. I'm actually pushing and pulling now to get a stretch through the body. And all of that is only when you appreciate those subtle movements. So if you're having trouble feeling it, come down to the smallest movement you can get. Remember that little rocking on the sacrum? Come down to the smallest movement and feel that rhythm, feel that dribble that you've got, feel that little dribble that you've got going on, and then begin to move it more and more and more. I've only just realised how useful that whole hula hoop thing is. I really have only just realised, it's like, wow, yeah, that's what you're doing. In your own body, you are oscillating. You are moving in your own body and finding their rhythm, not imposing your rhythm on theirs, just feeling it, sensing it, noticing where it moves well. Where does it move well? Where does it not move well? You know, I'm kind of, there's a little restriction there. If I go up, will it be easier? Yes. You know?
Are you supporting that on your
I was
on your
supporting
hip?
on my tummy. Particularly with the small movement, I felt like I needed to come in with my body.
That will reduce the strain on your...
It was more about feeling it, actually.
Okay.
Thank you for asking me questions, because sometimes I just do things. So that's what I found
Very
out
good
with
at asking
Simon.
questions.
Sometimes I just do things. So there's all sorts you can do with the legs, but one of the other things is the bounce, particularly this way round. That whole idea of bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Now, when you bounce, when you use the bounce technique, she's moving all over. I have to watch she doesn't unwind. I won't tell you about that, so we won't have that happening. Okay, what you watch here, is that you really want to get the bounce off the couch. Okay, so if you watch, you're just kind of bouncing it off the couch. So it's not a kind of hard work. Again, it's like that whole dribble, okay? So lots of bouncy, 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 rock, rock, rock. Same with the hands
If
and the
you
arms.
have lower back problems, would you put a cushion under the knees while you're doing that?
It's not going to work the same with a cushion under the knees. So I think you have to think about whether it's an appropriate... I think if somebody's got a lower back problem, I wouldn't be doing this, maybe. Yeah? So maybe I'd be thinking about other things if they've got a lower back problem. So bounce, 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 bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. See how she's helping me? So the more she helps, the more I'm just going to bounce. Are you right-handed? Let's come to your left hand. Whatever the dominant hand is, they tend to find it more difficult to let go. That's fine. It's not about bullying someone into relaxing. Have you worked that out yet? When you try and bully someone into relaxing, they just don't. You just have to help them to learn to let go. That's all you're doing. You're just helping them learn to let go. And most of that is in how much you allow them to loosen. So I'm holding her now. It's a kind of thumb hold. Got that? And then I'm just allowing everything to move from there. And once you know that she's nice and relaxed, you can start moving. See the bounce? Still the bounce. She's very relaxed. There's no restriction there. If there was any restriction there, I would just stay with the restriction. So I might do a much smaller movement. There's no restriction there, so I can go where I like. Watch the right foot move. Now this, let me tell you how this is done. Same thing as the leg. So I'm going to take it to a point of stretch, just a slight stretch. Then notice the bigger stretch, and somewhere between the two, I'm just going to oscillate. It takes time to feel those rhythms, okay? So don't beat yourself up if you can't. Head. How do you think you might feel if your head's moved too much? Yeah. So just be a little aware of where you might want to, just how much or how little you might want to begin with, okay? And again, it's more feeling the movement, feeling what's possible. Feeling. See the oscillation?
You can think of that as a stretch when we're doing neck or shoulder.
Yeah, you did that as a stretch. Now I'm just adding the movement. I'm showing you possibilities here, by the way. I'm not expecting you to do all this. I'm showing you where you could get to if you feel comfortable, if you get to feel people's rhythms and keeping that movement going, bringing that stretch in. So it's a two-way. Can you see the counter strain, move backwards and forwards. Okay, good. So all the time I'm doing that, I'm just feeling, to be honest with you. I'm just feeling what her body likes, what it doesn't. Watch the feet again. I love that one.
What are you getting
The occiput, yeah. It's not the muscles, it's just under the occiput. Just feeling under that. And feeling
How does that
under
feel, Helen?
I think you can feel that my occiput is quite tense, right? Yeah. It's really good.
So it's a small movement, just watching her body all the way through. Okay.